My parents owned a bookstore called Paperback Traffic, which was on Polk Street, which was a very big gay neighborhood in the 70s. It's actually um, not particularly gay. I mean, the entire city has changed. San Francisco is very different now, but there were two or three, actually, three main gay neighborhoods, which was Castro, which everybody knows is gay, the Polk Street area, which is very, very gay, and then south of Market, which is all like leather daddies. And so in the 70s, my parents owned a bookstore called Paperback Traffic on Polk Street. And we would have book signings by Armistead Maupin, who wrote Tales of the City. And we would have different like people selling very new ideas. Like Ed Hardy would come in and sell Tattoo Time, which he was very, very active in, like busy doing full body tattoos. Many of them he gave to some of the people who worked for my father at the store. So I was surrounded by heavily tattooed people very, very early on. There was also a huge gay section. Like half of the store was entirely made up of gay content, including a rolling rack of gay romance novels in the back of the store that were like they looked like Harlequin romance, but they didn't have like bodices. They would have like tank tops and jean cutoffs, and they would be like standing by a lake, but they would be like beautifully drawn images of men in their 20s with their thumbs hooked into their belt loops standing by a riverbed. So it was very like beautiful and romantic, and lots of gay publications like Honcho and Drummer and Blue Boy, as well as I remember actually a trans publication, and it was really a kind of a resource for trans people who were looking to transition or had already begun. So their journey was really documented, and it was sort of a very early trans magazine. I can't remember what it was. It's not around anymore, but it was really amazing to think about that in the 80s. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. So there was a lot of very like interesting stuff, literary stuff, and my parents bought the bookstore. I think because my father is very handsome and he loves male attention. And South Korea's primary export is male beauty, as we know
Right.
now, very well globally. But my dad was a very early exporter of the male beauty, and he didn't really care for female attention because he was sort of like, well, women will take anything, but men really know what's beautiful. So he really was very happy about all the male attention. He had portraits painted of him by some of the employees at the store who all just loved him. And so he hangs them still proudly in his home. Um, but yeah, I grew up and I went to my first gay prides in like 1970. I want to say 77, 78. I mean, it's really incredible how I've really been a witness to so much of what's happened with the queer community since I was a child.
Wow. And was it all books for you, or did you have a TV? Did you watch TV? Were you interested in TV?
I was very interested in television. We had a very old VCR that had wood. I mean, how many electronics have wood incorporated into them? I mean, I think probably now there is kind of a cottagecore movement where you will have some wood or maybe even steampunk, 2012 steampunk elements. There's like a lot of copper and brass, but we actually had a very large VCR that would lift up and you would put the cassette inside. I think briefly we had a Betamax actually too, but we had a VCR, and my parents were very keen on going to the Korean store, the Korean supermarkets, and renting pirated videos that they had made of Korean television. So we'd have a lot of that. And also, we'd have a huge array of horror genre films. You know, there was like a Chinese dry cleaner slash video rental half a block away from my house. And so they had a very large library of Hong Kong cinema. So I'm really familiar with that. Um, but I also loved television. Like I loved Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. I loved All in the Family. I loved The Jeffersons. I love Good Times is probably my very, very favorite.
Hmm.
I love Good Times because the audience was almost a character in the show. It was so, the laugh track was so important. And I think it was almost turned up a little bit because I feel like, you know, we were watching ourselves watch ourselves, you
Hmm.
know, and that's really powerful. And I grew up in a Black neighborhood, and my parents always sought out Black neighborhoods, gay businesses, Black businesses, because I think they experienced so much racism coming to America in 1964 that they understood that our communities needed to be linked and we needed to be together. And so that was always a part of our lives. So Good Times felt very much like, you know, we didn't see Asian people on television. So Good Times was almost like, well, we're still seeing ourselves.
Ah, got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
I heard you give an interview where you said that your parents really wanted you to be Americanized, you and your brother, and they wouldn't speak Korean to you. So,
Yes. So my generation of Korean Americans was really about not being immigrants anymore. Like this generation was born in America, so we're going to be Americans. We're going to have no idea where we came from, which I think is a mistake actually, because it's like I do speak Korean, but that's only very hard won. I've had to do quite a lot of online education and adult education to get there. I mean, it's Korean as a second language, even though it was my first language.
right.
So it's sad because there's a lot of it still there, but I can't speak it. Like I can hear and understand and listen and understand, but speaking is a challenge because I was really I was really told like you can't answer in Korean, you have to answer in English because our English had to be really mastered, I guess. So there couldn't be a trace of the homeland.